Pop Cult Pod. This is a broadcast from an undisclosed location in Ireland known as the Pop Cult Compound, where they're crazy for film, television, video games, and much, much more. Speaking now will be the cult leader, Tompott, the host of the only podcast with an actual cult following. Pop Cult Pod.
You ever wonder what the bottom of an Avatar shoe looks like? Well, bam! There it is.
I'm sorry, I'm just laughing at that again. If you don't know what that little intro clip there was, where he goes, bam, there it is. That was from a Microsoft conference about 10 years ago when they were showing off, they called it Project Natal. It was the Kinect. And they were like, look how amazing this is. Like, because obviously it was all about scanning things that never really played out in real life. And one of the things was like, it's detecting your movement. So he's like, look what the bottom of our avatar shoe looks like. And he just puts his foot up and it doesn't know how to deal with it, like, at all. It just starts wrapping around itself. Bam! There it is. Well, bam, here it is. The return. The long-awaited. Probably not. But the long-delayed, certainly, return of the Pop Cult Pod with our E3 special. What was the delay? Well, if I tell you what the delay was now, you're probably not going to want to listen to the rest of the episode. Okay, well, look, I'll level it right at the top. E3 was a slog to get through. I wasn't able to watch it live. Trying to catch up on this stuff was not fun. Not the best E3, but we'll break it down. We'll hold our hands together and hope that it pans out. We'll weather the storm and it shall be okay. So this show is going to be mostly strictly E3 stuff. Only thing I want to do right off the bat is the trailers that I missed. So what our schedule is going to be, this episode is going to be the trailers, then it's E3. Next episode, we'll be kind of catching up on the news I might have missed or the news of that week. And the following episode after that will probably be Comic-Con. If I've got the dates right in my head. Probably. And assuming the scheduling works out. Right, so let's look at the three trailers with our trailer trash.
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Trailer trash.
I think it looks kind of good, though.
Okay, so before I talk about those three trailers, which I'm going to talk about Knives Out, Charlie's Angels, and Jumanji, the next level. I'll mention the two trailers that got my interest during the break. There was a Doctor Sleep trailer. This is, of course, the sequel to The Shining. Very briefly, I thought it looked very good. I liked some of the horror imagery. I'm down for anything with Ewan McGregor in it, really. And I think this is very interesting. I can't tell, it seems like it's paying a lot of homage to the movie. But the movie was kind of famously not like Stephen King's book. So whether that'll be an issue, I don't know. But it had enough imagery in it, I think, that people will latch onto. And yeah, that looked pretty good because we'd heard good things about that trailer coming out of somewhere. CinemaCon, I think it was. The other trailer actually is a TV trailer, just I saw very briefly, was for The Boys on Amazon, which I'm looking forward to quite a bit. A bit. Yeah, this is an interesting looking trailer. It's very different to the previous trailers we got in a good way. I think it's more in spirit with maybe the comic, and it looks like a lot of fun. It's like a Spice World, Spice Girls ripoff, which is a lot of, very enjoyable trailer. That's all I can say. But those two, moving on to the next trailer for Charlie's Angels, which came out maybe 2 weeks ago. The reaction to this is is fascinating to watch. Okay? Because I was looking online on Twitter, because of course Twitter is the best place to get your opinion on anything. Because Twitter tends to overreact either positively or negatively to everything. But what got me was what people were reacting to. Overwhelmingly, the talk of this trailer is Kristen Stewart's hair. That's it. Look, Kristen Stewart is a beautiful woman. Her hair looks great. That's kind of it. That's all people are latching onto this trailer. Now, the other thing I've seen people say, and this is so odd, right? Because if you cast your mind back to the early 2000s, if you remember your Napsters and your dial-up internet, or maybe I just had dial-up internet back then, and we had the original Charlie's Angels movies, of course, inspired by the TV series, with Cameron Diaz, Lucy Liu, Drew Barrymore. People are really weird in re-evaluating this movie, I guess, because people were like, oh, this doesn't look anything like the original. Like, we do remember those were just kind of cash-grabby cash-ins on the name. I don't remember anything about those movies. I'm pretty sure I saw one of them. I remember I fell deeply in love with Cameron Diaz more than I ever had before watching it. You know, as a young man. I don't think they were great movies though, were they? And people now were kind of holding them up as like, how dare they disrespect the legacy? People only remember that movie because of the Beyonce song, right? Or was it Destiny's Child still then? Oh, the early 2000s. When Beyonce was one person in a band as opposed to just this queen of the universe. Oh, it was so simple then, wasn't it? But yeah, people are holding on to that as if like this isn't anything like it, which is a weird stance to take because I don't know, was there a backlash when the movies came out? People being like, this isn't like the TV show. We want Farrah Fawcett. I don't know if Farrah Fawcett was a Charlie's Angel. I'm assuming she was. That's all my knowledge of the 70s. Like, whatever else you want to say about this trailer, I think it's pretty badly put together, if nothing else. It's like obnoxiously edited or something. It just jumps around a lot. It almost looks like a parody of those movies. You know, like it's just stupid over the top action. They're heavily promoting the song as well for it. I don't know who was doing it. It's Miley Cyrus, Ariana Grande, and someone. I can never get all three of the people right. I can't remember the original. Trying to remember who's in this movie. I can't remember the three singers on the soundtrack. I can get two of them. I can get two of the three angels as well. It's Naomi Scott, Kristen Stewart, Ella Balinska. I don't know if that's right, but we're close enough, right? Elizabeth Banks is in this. They make that very clear constantly. She gives an intro to the trailer. It comes from Elizabeth Banks, and Elizabeth Banks is in it. It's like, whoa, okay. I love Elizabeth Banks, but we get it, okay? Just say an Elizabeth Banks film at the start, you're golden then. That's all we need. I don't know about this trailer at all, really. I think just judging off this trailer, and granted, as I said, you know, this could just be a bad trailer. I don't think it's a very well put together trailer, certainly. I think best case, it'll be an average enough action movie. Worst case, this could be god awful. It does not look very good at all. We have Patrick Stewart as Bosley. I think Digimon Hinsu was also Bosley, and so was Elizabeth Banks. I don't know. Someone plays Charlie, I guess, because that's how the trailer ends. I also find it quite weird, right? Because obviously this is a whole, like, this is one of those franchises where having it be a female-centric one makes sense. You know, this is a female franchise. You know, people get really uptight about the whole thing of, oh, well, these characters were male, and now they're women. People get all insecure about that for some reason. This is a female franchise. Just let them be women. And one thing is that it kind of feels like, I don't know, it feels a bit, there's parts of it that feel very like they're setting out their sex a bit. Am I wrong there? I'm probably not in a position to say this really, but you know, like at one part they're kind of going mad about fashion, and then there's another point where, like, I think it's Naomi Scott like takes off a helmet or something, and she does like a L'Oreal, you know, with her hair. It's like, that doesn't seem necessary, does it? It just seems like anyone could have done that. That could have been done in any movie to be like, oh, look at this woman, kind of leering in a weird way. But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't think anyone necessarily has high hopes for a Charlie's Angels movie. Maybe I'm wrong there. Like, the people who remember Charlie's Angels from TV, I guess, like, I don't think that there's hardly any OG fans of Charlie's Angels by now. They must be like in their 70s now, if they are. You know, I don't think those people care. I don't know. Apparently, there's a fan base for the movies in the 2000s, judging off the reaction online, which I find very odd. I think there's actually a reference to the other movies, but I don't know. It feels like, I don't know. I don't think it's any better for being a Charlie's Angels movie. You know what I mean? They could have just done a good female action movie. I don't know. Not completely sold on this. Maybe it was a bad trailer. I like a lot of the people involved in it, so it could work. I don't know, maybe my issue is, like, where's the male Charlie's Angels movie? Come on, Hollywood. Give us a male Charlie's Angels movie. Can I have Chris Hemsworth, the money maker? Oh, okay, I'll stop ripping on Charlie's Angels. And Chris Hemsworth, more importantly. Alright. Other trailer we had was for Jumanji, The Next Level. This actually only came out quite recently. Now, I liked the last Jumanji. I did very much. I didn't think I would. I think a lot of people kind of had the feeling off that movie that it was going to not be very good. And again, hey, that goes for the Charlie's Angels people as well. Like, the perception of that movie was that it was going to be awful, and it turned out to be A, really good, and B, make a hell of a lot of money. This one, I was a little bit concerned initially because I was like, oh, are they just going to do the same thing ad nauseum now? I can't. It kind of hits somewhere in the middle for me because I thought the plot might be something like the video game characters get brought into real life or something. Maybe kind of a complete reversal that way. And they're in the game again. And some of the same people get sucked into the game again. Which is fine, I guess. Now, it's Danny DeVito and Danny Glover are the two main people. And I love both of those actors, so that's probably one of the main reasons why I'm like, all right. So what happens this time is, the last movie, The Rock was like taken by a nerdy gamer, and that kind of thing. So The Rock this time is going to be playing Danny DeVito, which, if that doesn't sell you a ticket. Danny Glover is going to be playing as Kevin Hart's character. So Kevin Hart is doing a Danny Glover impression. Jack Black, who was a teenage girl in the last one, is now playing like the footballer guy. I think his name was Fridge. So he's going to be taking on the mannerisms of a black man. I'm sure that's going to... there might be some controversy with that one, you think? I don't know. Then they didn't show much of his performance in the trailer. We saw a little bit of Danny DeVito. It really hinged on Kevin Hart's Danny Glover, which is outstanding, thankfully. Like, that's the thing. It's different enough, but I do wonder if this franchise is just going to be the same thing over and over again. They're like, hey, let's get these actors to pretend to be these actors. Like, I guarantee if this one's successful, Christopher Walken is going to get a phone call, and we're going to have The Rock going, oh no, I'm in Jumanji. If you want me to take that role, Sony, no problem. Just send me a check. It's like, it looks fine. One thing I will say, I don't particularly remember the action in the last Jumanji movie. I know there was some good action in it. There was some decent scenes. At least in the trailer, it looks way better. It looks very impressive. I wonder if the physicality is going to be there. Well, I suppose they can, I guess. I was going to say, if The Rock is being played by Danny DeVito, is there going to be less movement? But I suppose that doesn't really matter because he was a nerd last time playing The Rock, and that didn't stop him. It seems very much like a retread, but I think there's just enough different to get me interested. I was hoping for a little bit more. And again, it's the first trailer. I think as more is revealed about this, we could get a bit more. That was a quick turnaround as well. What are we getting? Like another one just in 2 years? It's pretty quick, man. I don't know. It looks good. Hopefully, it is as good as the last one because the last one, I was shocked how much I enjoyed that one, and I went in with moderate expectations. So hopefully, this one I'm going in with moderate expectations, and it could blow me away again. Never know. The last trailer I want to talk about. This is actually one of the reasons I delayed the podcast because I wanted to see this trailer before I spoke about it. Knives Out. This is the Rian Johnson trailer. Rian Johnson, who, as the trailer proudly proclaims, directed Looper and wrote and directed The Last Jedi, which, I don't know, he's just needling people there by saying that. Because that's going to get a few people triggered. Not me particularly, but this is a strange one because actually, like all the trailers I'm talking about now, they're kind of weird. And there's no trailer where I'm like, this is amazing. They're all just kind of getting me, interested, but not entirely invested. It's a very standard idea. And I know it's going for that. It's kind of going for like a throwback, cheesy kind of thing with a few modern sensibilities. The cast in this movie is like, might be the best cast in the movies, in any movie aside from maybe Endgame this year, off the top of my head. Daniel Craig is a detective. I love his performance in the trailer. I hope he kind of carries the movie, it seems. Yeah, basically it's like a whodunit. It's kind of like Clue. They're at a party seemingly, and I think it's like their grandfather maybe is killed. I think this is all one family. And yeah, that's kind of it. It's like whodunit, and no one can leave, and yeah, it's got a cheesy sense of fun about it that I quite enjoy. I wasn't entirely sold in the trailer. I wanted maybe just a bit more out of it, maybe. Highlight to the trailer. Michael Shannon is completely over the top, but that is Michael Shannon, I think. Who else? Jamie Lee Curtis She kind of gives she looks very old in this movie, but that's her role, I guess. She looked great in Halloween. Probably the biggest scene stealer is Chris Evans, going very much against Captain America image we have in our head, telling everyone to eat shit. He plays this kind of like sarcastic, kind of campy character, it seems. That was incredibly entertaining. Very much looking forward to see him in this movie, kind of. He hasn't got to do many roles, and when he does, he always excels. He does great in, even minor roles. Like when you look at Scott Pilgrim, like, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I'd like to see another trailer. It's coming out in November, so don't give us too much. Don't give away too much, because I think having a kind of murder mystery back in cinemas with a degree of self-awareness and humor to it could work really well. And again, that cast is just amazing. Yeah, check it out for yourself. Lights out trailer. Even though I wouldn't say I was underwhelmed, I think it was just my expectations were very high. And I suppose with a trailer like this, you can't really show too much. You can't, because don't want to give it away. I don't know how much there's going to be in this anyway when it comes to action. This could very much be a kind of sit in the room and talk kind of movie anyway. Anyway, there you have it. That is our trailer trash for the week. So with that, we will get on to E3. That's right, motherfuckers. I got new sound. I'm recording using Adobe instead of Audacity. If you want to know behind the curtain. Yeah, I'm using a new recording software, basically. So if there's an issue with this, I guess I'll blame it on that, but I won't be here to fix it. I'll probably be in Berlin. And deservedly so, I would say. Well-deserved break. I dare say well-deserved. On to E3 this year. Okay. I'm going to go through the conferences, what they showed, what I thought of the conferences, and then I'll kind of do a bit of a rundown of the best games, the worst conference, the best conference, that sort of thing. So we're beginning first with Microsoft. Microsoft showed off a game called The Outer Worlds first. The Outer Worlds is a kind of a shooter. At first I thought it was Borderlands 3. I think a lot of people did, actually. Because at the moment it seems like every post-apocalyptic game has like this kind of crazy Technicolor madness about it, as we will see as the show goes on. This looked like a pretty good game. It kind of looked like a Fallout game, to be honest. So if you've been kind of burnt by Bethesda, that might be one for you to get. But I'm not normally a Fallout player, but I did think it looked quite good. So there's a trailer out for that. They also showed some brief gameplay afterwards, not on stage, which will be a running theme, as we will get to. But yeah, The Outer Worlds was the first thing. I would definitely say that is worth a look. Check it out. Bleeding Edge was the next game to show. This came from Ninja Theory. This is a 4v4 online melee. This is a word I always fuck up, because I don't think I've ever heard anyone say it properly. Melee. Okay, it's a combat game. Another game that could have been Borderlands. Again, this is a running theme. This looked pretty good. Online games, as much as I prefer to have a single player in both. It was really, I don't know, yeah, I don't know why all the games look the same lately. Thankfully, they've gone to a game that does not look the same at all, and that is Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Now, there was other Ori games. I have not played any of them, but they look amazing. And I've heard they're quite good. So the Will of the Wisps is going to come out on February 11, 2020. As I said, gorgeous looking game in E3, where I don't think there was many visually stunning games. I would say if you like those games, you must be delighted, because there's another one coming in February. If not, I would say check out this one, because it looks absolutely amazing. Visually, very into this one. And before we came to a figurehead, we got Minecraft Dungeons. It's Minecraft in Dungeons. I don't know what else you want to say. It looks like Minecraft. Has a sort of a Zelda vibe to it. Coming out in the spring. Like, kids love Minecraft. If you love Minecraft, that's great. I'm sure you'll like this. It just kind of felt like one of those games where they just slapped a label on it, and they're like, hey, it'll sell more if it's called this. It's Minecraft Dungeons. What more do you want, really? And then finally we had Phil Spencer, bro. He came out. That's what all those Xbox guys are like. They're like, that's right, we're killing it over here at Xbox. Yeah. And we know the gamers matter more than anybody. Bro. Crushing it straight hard. Like, again, Phil Spencer seems like a lovely guy. He seems like he has a good head on his shoulders, but they all kind of talk like that. Like, that's right, we've got a big library of games, bro. You want to crush it with your dudes online playing Call of Duty? You can do that only on Xbox. You know? By the way, let's talk about crowds at E3. The pathetic crowds. Because it's hard to tell with some of these. I've heard reports of past E3s of plans. In fact, there was one, I think maybe this was two. This might have been at Microsoft as well. Maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, where you had the crowd at the front and all the noise, like all the journalists said, like all the noise was coming from the back where all the Microsoft employees are. Now, I'm not going to disparage anyone in the crowd. Look, you know, sometimes you're in a crowd, you get into it. Maybe they're just more enthusiastic and less jaded than I am. I thought they must have been plants in some of this crowd because there was a lot of wooing. One guy crossed his arms like an X, like, yeah, Xbox. Which, like, come on, really? And not only that, like, when you look at the games they showed off before Phil Spencer came out, it's like, was that anything really worth getting that pumped up over? I don't know. It's weird. Some of these have to be plants. There's a few other conferences where I'm like, definitely. It also seemed like this E3 there was more people just shouting shit at the presenters, which generally they dealt with pretty well, as we will get to in a sec. So he said that this is the biggest showing of any games they've ever done at E3. They have 60 games. No, sorry. This is the biggest showing of any games this year. In other words, the Microsoft conference has more games than other places, so not necessarily the most games they've ever shown. That was my mistake. So it said there's going to be 60 games, 14 from Xbox Game Studios. Now, again, remember, Xbox Game Studios can be indie developers as well. It doesn't mean necessarily AAA. But that's still a good thing because Xbox constantly come under fire for not having enough exclusives, not really looking after independent developers. They're really starting to change that, to be fair to them. You mightn't like Xbox, but they're definitely trying to listen to their critics and get there. As you know, I keep saying, as we will see. I just keep talking instead and shut up. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. We'd seen a lot of this game already. This was, I think, not originally a Star Wars game, from what I've heard. It looks fine. It looks like a Star Wars game, and it looks like a pretty good Star Wars game, but it doesn't look like anything original. You know, that way? It feels like it could be any standard action game, but you have a lightsaber. Which there's a sort of a micro controversy, I guess, if you want to talk about this, where people are like, "Oh, why can't you dismember limbs?" Oh, you can't do that in most Star Wars games, really. That would be very violent. Like, don't get me wrong, there wouldn't be blood everywhere, but if you're just hacking off limbs and stuff, that could cause problem. Apparently, that's a rule from Lucasfilm as well, that you're not allowed to do it. And like when they give you the license of the game, they're like, you can't do that. Now, I think it has been I don't want to say it's been in many games. I thought I heard one person say it's been in a game, but I can't remember which one for the life of me. It's not really a big deal, is it? If the game is good, you're not going to be like, oh, I wish I could hack off limbs. Who are all these psychotics that are like, I want to be a Jedi. Yeah, cut that guy's head off. Yeah. Oh man. You should read it. There should really be more games actually in Star Wars that have that morality system, right? When you become a Jedi or a Sith. I think maybe they did in Force Unleashed, did they? I don't know. Our next game was one of the few surprises at E3. And I guess it was quite fitting that it was a surprise. And I was actually very impressed by this. And I'm not necessarily a fan of the series in general. So we got a trailer. And I thought this was Alan Wake first. Now, I would say this as well. The way I have my notes taken here, I have the name of the game first. Remember that in a lot of cases, they won't show off the name of the game until after. So I'll give you my initial perception and then I'll reveal what the game is. So this one, I thought it was Alan Wake. And understandably so, there was kind of a light and there was woods and that kind of thing. And maybe that was their intention. But either way, it was a trailer for Blair Witch, the game. Now, I haven't seen any of the Blair Witch movies. I mean, I get it. Like, yeah, it's you know, it is what it is. Everyone knows what it is. It kind of popularized the God, I can't even remember that genre of film now. You know, the cam or whatever. I actually think that like this. First of all, it was a pretty good trailer. It actually had a bit of good horror to it. It was kind of scary and well implemented. I think there's a lot of good opportunities for gameplay in this. With the Blair Witch franchise, it might struggle to be original. Like there's been all these games already where you have camera and you can take pictures of ghosts and stuff. Like there was a Japanese game in particular, I think on PS2 that was a horror game that's escaping me now. I know a lot of them probably took their cues from Blair Witch, so it's tough that this game is going to come in that position. But again, and look, you can't judge, especially in gaming, can't judge a game based on a CG trailer. But it was a pretty well done trailer. If they can keep that kind of cinematic horror shtick going in the game, this could be very good. One thing that I thought was a bit of a shame, I don't think Xbox have a VR system, really. You couldn't help but think this would be amazing in VR. It is what it is. It looks actually very impressive. And a lot of people, it was, as I said, one of the few surprises, and Blair Witch kind of likes doing surprises. They announced the last Blair Witch film pretty much out of nowhere. But yeah, put this down as one of the first pleasant surprises at E3. And then we had what is one of the biggest games at E3. Everyone is talking about it. And there's good things and bad things to that, which we will discuss in a minute. So, one of the most anticipated games, it got a cheer when CG Projekt Red came up on screen. You must know what I'm talking about now. Of course, Cyberpunk 2077. There's a lot of swearing in this. They gave us kind of I guess you call it a story trailer. It didn't necessarily give us a story, but it gave us more story than some of the other trailers that we gotten, certainly. It looked very impressive. I love the aesthetic of this game. The world is very impressive. In fact, there was actually a rumor that they were working on other games in the Cyberpunk world. I think that was debunked. They certainly responded to it. Let me just check here. And while I'm doing it, probably one of the reasons, actually, yeah, they denied that they're working on multiple games. One of the reasons this game is being talked about so much on E3 has nothing to do with the game, really, is that they brought Keanu Reeves on stage. And now I thought we were past E3 being like, oh, look, it's this guy, and he's here to tell you how much he likes playing this. Because there was a stage in the 2000s where that's all it was, and it was embarrassing. It was like, oh, cool, he's a gamer like me. That being said, I love Keanu Reeves. And I think seemingly the whole world does now after this. And, he's had a tough life if you look into it, so it's nice that he's coming around. And he's in the game, more importantly. So he came out. Obviously, he's in the game, as I said. They have like a CG trailer where he whips off his glasses and says something like, "Oh, how about we go burn down a city" or something. His entrance, by the way, it was like a pro wrestler. It was the most over the top, amazing thing ever. He came out like Jesus. There was just all this fog, and he walked out. You could see his silhouette. It was crazy. So basically, the plot is, and this is going from Keanu's words himself. He plays an enhanced outlaw working in the sleazy underbelly of the city. He said, walking. Here's where we get to the part everyone remembers. Walking down the streets of the city will be breathtaking. To which some guy from the crowd shouted, "You're breathtaking." And Keanu Reeves, without missing a beat, whipped his finger gun out and went, "You're breathtaking." And everyone lost it. That was all we got from Cyberpunk 2077. They haven't revealed any gameplay. I think there was some closed door stuff, but not much if there was, because they're being very protective of this game, and yet everyone loves it. That's all we got. And no, don't get me wrong, it was a great trailer. And put Keanu Reeves in every game for all I care. He's awesome. It's just a very weird thing where people are so hyped about this, and I think it's because of reputation more than anything. CD Projekt Red and The Witcher had massive appeal to a lot of people, and it's you want to believe this is going to be amazing, but it's just odd. Because people are really in a frenzy for this, and I don't know, is there any way they can not be disappointed at the end of the day? By the way, that guy who shouted "You're breathtaking," CD Projekt Red are giving him a deluxe edition of the game or whatever, the collector's edition for free. Which, to be honest, he probably deserves that, if not more, because that is what people are talking about. That's become a meme, I think. People love Keanu Reeves, and of course, this is all going to be positive word of mouth for Cyberpunk 2077. That's probably the best marketing you can get. It comes out as well, they dated it, April 16th, 2020. And it's weird, like, we'll talk about this a bit more in a while. With new consoles launching, I wonder if we're going to kind of get a version for next-gen consoles sooner rather than later as well. But anyway, they went from that to a very odd... Like, that's what I mean. The structure of the Microsoft one was a bit all over the place as far as the games. We had Spitfire, which was a side-scroller. It kind of had an RPG element to it. And it was had a really kind of Studio Ghibli influence. The art side, it looked absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it was one of the best looking games at the whole show. I actually, like, I'm not the most RPG heavy guy, and we'll talk about that when we get to Square Enix's conference. I want to see gameplay from this because this was gorgeous. It was kind of like, you know, when Cuphead came out and everyone was like, what? No way. No way, is that real? That can't work. And then it was amazing, you know. Definitely could get into that. I think that's one to keep an eye on. Battletoads are back. I feel like I've heard that before, actually. Battletoads are back. It looked okay. They didn't really give us a very clear look at it, I thought. Animation looked fairly crisp. Don't know about the art or character design, but yeah, apparently the Battletoads are back. There's another one, right? And I didn't know what was going on with this, but I like the look of it. And that'll be a couple of games we've seen at E3. Some of them just have amazing graphics, but then you're kind of like, wait, what are we looking at here? And that was a game called, I think this was its name, RPG Time, The Legend of Right. So this is another Xbox Store game or whatever. And it looked really cool, really unique art style again. I don't entirely know what it's like, but it did look really good. I want to know how it will play. You know, there's a lot of these cool indie games where you're like, whoa. And then you're just like, wait a sec. But how? Oh, excuse me. Oh my god, I'm only at the first conference. I'm already falling asleep. It's like watching this in real time. They then showed off a montage of independent developers, which looked quite cool. But again, it's really hard to judge a game off like 5 seconds. And that's the thing. Xbox used to pretty much just go like, big games, and here's a trailer for all the indie crap. And now they're giving them more time, but I wonder if the order helped them much here. So all those games are going to be available, all the indie games are available day one on Xbox Game Pass, which of course they came out to pimp Game Pass. Every game Xbox Game Studios title will premiere there day one. Game Pass launched in open beta during the conference, and generally the Game Pass is going to be $9.99 a month for console or PC. It's going to be $3.99 a month during the beta. And then there's an ultimate package, which includes Xbox Live, Game Pass for both, as in your console and your PC, for $14.99 a month. Or in Euro, that's $12.99, which is a pretty amazing offer, actually. If you're a console gamer and you have an Xbox, that's a steal, really. Especially like Gamecast, I haven't really looked into it yet, or the PS Now equivalent or whatever it is. This could very well be the future, and they're very much looking at streaming in the future, Microsoft there. So it's going to be interesting to see how this does. That sounds like a very promising offer, though, because, I mean, how much is Xbox Live a month? It can't be much less than that, if anything. So I think it's €20 over here for 3 months, maybe. So for $12.99, you know, to get all those games as well. They showed Flight Simulator after this, which is a really weird one to jump into. I thought it looked fine. Right? It looked like a Flight Simulator game where the graphics are better. I wonder, right? And look, I'm not into these Flight Simulator games. I know there are people that are. People love the sort of realism of just, like, there's people that will take it really seriously. They'll read up on airplane manuals. And, you know, more power to them if that's what they enjoy. That's like a hobby more than just being a gamer, I think. But when we reach the point of the best graphics ever, I don't know where these go. Like, is it just they release a new game every now and then, and there's not really much difference? I don't know. It feels like I don't know. It feels like more so than any other game. What's the point of making new ones? Because they will eventually be the exact same thing over and over again. Speaking of, that was unintentional. Games that look the exact same over and over again. Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. Now, I was like 90% sure I own this game already. And I looked it up. It's in my Steam account. I have Age of Empires like 2 HD. And I guess they're making it again. And it has a new campaign and remastered audio and visuals. what are you doing, man? It's like the one I have looks fine. You know, you can only like improve the graphics of that so much, considering it's like a top-down isometric whatever game. It's never going to look perfect. Like, how much better do you need it to be? I wonder, like, Age of Empires is just done, I guess, but it's weird they don't just make another one. But I guess they've done all they could, and why would you when you can just keep putting out the same game every couple of years and people are going to buy it up? Then we had Wasteland 3. I've never heard of the other Wastelands. I didn't hear Wasteland 1 or 2. This is one of those other ones that I'm going to say suffers from Borderlands syndrome, just trying too hard to be zany. There was I should say it's not trying too much to be Borderlands because it is a top-down shooter, but I hate those shooters where it's like, hey, whoa, bro, whoa, and then you shoot with a crazy animal or something on a rainbow, or someone cracks a one-liner, and we're meant to be like, wow, well, look at that personality. It's like, it's as if they kind of put humor and like, well, it might have been unique art style when it first started off. It's not anymore. Ahead of gameplay, and we're meant to be impressed. Then the man, oh man. I was going to say the man with something, but this guy is just the man. Because when you hear his name, forevermore, you will know your name sucks. Matt Booty came on stage. That's, yeah, a lot of people can't come on stage. I wouldn't have even said their name, but Matt Booty is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. And he announced that Double Fine has joined Xbox Game Studios. That's, of course, Tim Schafer, who did Grim Fandango, Psychonauts, and most importantly, he's working on Psychonauts 2. So he joked about making Halo and Forza games, or that he was going to have to do that, but of course they said, we just want you to be you. Ha ha ha. And they showed off a trailer for Psychonauts 2. I will say this, by the way, only a couple months ago, I played Psychonauts again. And that's a pretty damn good game. That holds up, man. It's kind of weird, and the humor's really good. And I played Grim Fandango not that long ago as well. Oh shit, I never finished Grim Fandango. I have to go back to that. But regardless, yeah, this is, the level design, the graphics for Psychonauts 2 look impressive. I think this was very much a sort of a PR move. Just be like, hey, who's kind of leading indie developer in the market? Probably, Double Fine. Like, Double Fine, I don't know if they've ever had that successful a game, to be honest. Like, they kind of just make game. Heavy Metal, what was it called? Brutal Legend? Yeah, Brutal Legend. That was a flop as well. They very rarely have big hits, so I think this is almost like a PR move to be like, so Xbox can be like, that's right, look, we support small developers, we put product over profit, and blah. But again, as people that are a fan of Tim Schafer and Double Fine are happy. Microsoft will be happy. Again, I don't know if there's a market there for Psychonauts 2. I probably will play it at some point because I did like the first one, but I don't know. We will see. Then we got a Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. Now this is, I think this is I couldn't figure this one out because I've heard differing comments from this. What they showed didn't really indicate anything. In your head, you'd probably think, oh, this is, Lego Star Wars. They did the 6 games or the 6 original movies, and I guess they're adding the new trilogy to it. I think this is a top, a top down remake. They're doing the whole thing, the whole Skywalker saga again, covering 9 films. Which I also heard, by the way, from some of the people that played this, and it was like people you wouldn't expect to like it said it was great. Said it was really fun. So that's what we're getting. All 9 films. It's a lot of game. These Lego games are kind of up and down, and they're somewhat watered down now, just because of the fact that there is so many of them. But that's a pretty good offer. Hopefully, it turns out pretty well, or pretty good, I guess. And again, it sounds like they're starting the whole thing again. I mean, how bad? I guess they're freaking out because they're going to run out of their Lego Star Wars pretty soon for a while. The next game they showed off was something I don't have an interest in really because I don't know a lot about it, but it was really impressive, and that was Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. That's what it says. That's Kakarot. Kakarot. Ooh, Kakarot. That's not a great. Anyway, early 2020 is when this game's coming out. I don't know a lot about Dragon Ball, but holy shit, the art style for this absolutely blew me away. It looks like the anime, but they managed to get like, you know, when they adapt like a video game from like a cartoon, like a 2D animation, and it never looks right. They made it look right. The color and the lighting are just perfect. Don't get me wrong, I was lost and confused by the whole thing. Someone went Super Saiyan, I guess. That's my knowledge of Dragon Ball. But wow, visually this is amazing. And the fans of it that were there, assuming they weren't all plants, as we went over already, went nuts for it. And rightfully so, it looked really impressive, I will say. Then we had another one that was a shock that a lot of people are talking about, and I think deservedly so. This was interesting. I actually really... this might be one I come back to. 12 minutes. So this is an interactive thriller by one of the artists who worked on The Witness, made by Annapurna Interactive. This was a game that is more interesting in concept, and I think like a kind of a small linear story. And it was funny because I was watching it being like, you know, it's like this guy in a room talking with his wife, and then something happens, like as an incident. I won't ruin it if you want to watch the trailer. And then it's like, oh, it's starting again. And I was like, oh, is it a man in a time loop? Holy shit. And then, of course, on the screen, it says like, a man trapped in a time loop or whatever. I don't know how the gameplay is going to be. Is it going to be exciting, or is it just when you play for the story? But this is cool. This is something pretty original, seemingly. I like the look of it. And again, it's such a far cry from previous Microsoft conferences where they give something like this time because people are talking about this. And I think it deserves to be talked about, certainly. Way to the Woods, another a very nice game. It actually seems like a title that Sony might normally put out. You play as a deer. And it was like kind of just a deer walking around with, whatever a baby deer is called. Fawn? So was a female deer. Fawn? I don't know. I got a real kind of Okami vibe off this. It looked lovely. I think it was a Japanese game studio. And yeah, that was certainly what you would think from looking at it. It looks, it's another gorgeous small game. Hopefully it works very well out for them. But Way to the Woods. That's another one I would say check out. So I think actually so far we're doing pretty good as far as what they've shown off. There's ones worth checking out. Most of them are. Don't get me wrong, I've torn up into a few of these. Conference has gone pretty well so far. And I'm not going to say it falls off a cliff, but I found there's a few weird things here. And it actually comes from the ones you would expect to kind of be the pillars of a conference. So we had Gears of War 5 Bound by Blood. I thought this was just a baffling display for Gears of War. Like, this is coming out really soon, by the way. September 10th. Now, that's important that it's coming out soon. Because you're thinking, oh, maybe they'll give us a really cool trailer or something that gets us into it. Like, Gears of War, if they're not known for the gameplay, they're known for those amazing trailers, Mad World was a very famous one. Other ones like that. They had really beautiful cinematic trailers, just like haunting end of worlding. This one fucking sucked. It was like just looking at the character's face, and then it was like all over the place. It's a sort of thing there where if you did this with a real person, and the sort of like arts, like if it was a realistic looking, if you did this like with in-camera effects with a human actor, you might be like, yeah, that's pretty cool. It's not impressive when you do it with a video game character. It really isn't. And we should be way past that if this game is coming out in September. That could have been done. That could have been an announcement trailer, man. Like, I don't know. They could have done a lot more to make this franchise feel a bit reinvigorated, I think. Because I think people didn't really care about Gears of War 4 or what was the other one? Judgment Day? I don't remember. Yeah, it feels like they could have done a bit more. Then this... They advertised this new mode called Escape Mode. And this is even more baffling, okay? So they had like these cool stage pyrotechnics. Really theatrical stuff. And you're like, oh crap, what's it going to be? Oh, they're going to show real gameplay or a new trailer. So it was a new trailer. It's for this Escape Mode, which It seems like kind of a swarm mode, kind of like a Left 4 Dead sort of a thing. They had a poor song choice in the trailer, I remember. Anyway, they didn't show any gameplay of it, so it's like, oh, okay. It was another CGI trailer, and again, I guess this is the part where you talk about it. E3 this year, at least it felt like there was more CGI trailers than ever. Didn't feel like there was any real gameplay here. I can remember very few instances where someone came on stage and they were playing with a controller. It was a CGI trailer after CGI trailer, and most of them weren't that good. Even Ubisoft, which we will get to in a second, they're kind of famous for those. Here's another thing, right? Now, I'm like, if you've been following this podcast, if you've seen some of the videos or following me Twitter, anywhere, basically, if this is anywhere except your first time hearing me, you probably know I like wrestling. I'm a wrestling fan, right? They had 3 wrestlers playing the game under the stage. AJ Styles, Xavier Woods, and Tyler Breeze. Now, if you're a wrestling fan, that might mean something. If you're not a wrestling fan, it means nothing. Regardless of that, you think it might have been like, hey, now let's watch them play. Oh, you've got wrestlers in to do some smack talk because they're playing against each other. No. They did this big pyrotechnic display, went under the stage with all this cool camera work, and they were like, yeah, we got 3 wrestlers here to play. And then it was like, okay, bye. They didn't do anything with it. What was the point of that? Because if you're a wrestling fan and you know those guys, you're like, oh, cool. But otherwise, you're like, oh, 3 guys are playing the game. Can we see? No? All right. Okay, bye. Totally baffling. Ridiculous. 3-player co-op mode, escape mode. Actually, I think there's a few 3-player co-op games coming out for some reason. Then they announced a Terminator Dark Fate character pack with a pre-order on Xbox Game Pass. Yeah, that was not a great show off for Gears, in my opinion. Also, is it really that interesting to get a Terminator character back? I feel like Terminator has lost its luster enough where it's just like, oh yeah, okay, right. Make another good Terminator for the first time in like 30 years, and then we'll talk. All right. I think that's another game. I can't remember what game was that. That's at the conference as well. But like they keep doing it like it's a big thing. Like they're like, and if you like character packs, wait till you hear this, and it goes there. You hear dun 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. And we're going to be like, oh, what? But it's like, oh, right, okay. Oh, it's determined. Oh, yeah, okay, cool. Because like even if you do have the Terminator pack, it's probably just going to be like the stripped down skeleton, which is fine. Fine, I guess, whatever. The Elite controllers, very quickly, they've revamped them. There's a series 2 of those Elite controllers. Those are like the pro controllers that you can kind of design yourself. The other ones I could probably just breeze through. Dying Light 2, it was a fine trailer, nothing special. It looks like a zombie game. I think that gets shown off at another conference as well. I didn't play the first one. Some people really liked it. Other people didn't care for it. So you get Forza Horizon 4. It did the thing that we always get at every E3. Anytime there's a car racing game, they're like, let's bring a car on stage. But to be fair, they fucking swerved me. Okay, so ultra realistic effects. They bring a cool car on stage. The graphics are cool. And it's like backlit. You're like, oh, whoa, that's a cool car, man. What is it? Oh, let's see. Ooh, that was my actual reaction as a car person, which I am not. It was made of Lego, and you're like, what? So it's like a Lego expansion pack, Forza Horizon, including like cars and tracks, which doesn't mesh at all, by the way. So I don't get this, right? Like, if you love racing games, and you go for this ultra realistic, totally visual, oh, I gotta gear up, and this is what it's like being a real race car driver. And then you put the most casual, arcadey series or games with Lego in there, which I don't get. Those seem like they're going to alienate someone. They just don't mesh very well. And I say that as somebody who prefers arcadey racing games to actual racing games. It just feels like those don't mesh very well. Then we had Gears Pop. Totally pointless. It's like the Lego games, except they're pop final. It's Gears of War. It's a real-time strategy game. I think it's on phone. Totally pointless. I remember when they announced this, I think it was last year. And it was like, ugh, what is this? And that was pretty much the same reaction again. State of Decay 2 Heartland, that's DLC. The graphics of this title look rubbish. Like really, really bad. I've never played the game. It looks fine. It's another zombie shooter game, which is just, at this point, is there ever going to be a zombie game announced where you're like, oh yeah, that's like, that feels new. That's unique. I can't remember a zombie game where people got, like, unless it was Left 4 Dead 3. That's the only time I think people will lose their shit. But other than that, it feels like people haven't been excited for a zombie game since that trailer for Dead Island. Because they all just look the exact same. And most of the time, they're kind of suck. Fantasy Star Online 2, again, this is something I would be necessarily interested in. It's a big deal to a lot of people. It looked quite cool, though. So if you're into that kind of world, you might enjoy it more than I did. Crossfire X, this is a game by Smilegate. We got another CGI trailer. It's cool, kind of. It's a free-to-play shooter that's, again, they didn't show off gameplay, so I don't know how you're meant to judge this. Tales of Arise, I honestly don't remember this one, but I remember it not being my thing. Check it out. More power to you if you liked it. I'm guessing it was probably an RPG kind of fancy thing. Borderlands 3. Oh, God. A lot of people had the same reaction to any of the trailers for Borderlands, and this is even Borderlands fans, because they've waited for a while for this game, and it seems like it's just more of the same, and this didn't dissuade that idea. Now, I would say I tried playing Borderlands. I played the first one. I kind of gave up. Now, I have the Handsome Collection. It's free on PSN at the moment. I might try those out again. But yeah, it wasn't... I didn't feel like anything worth getting excited over, certainly. Didn't feel any different to the other ones. But if you're looking forward to Borderlands 3, I mean, you already know if you are or not, really. No trailer or gameplay is going to sell you on it more. I think you already know by this point whether you're a Borderlands fan, and a lot of people are. So, one thing I thought was very interesting, right? The investment by Microsoft into Japanese titles and studios. They have a very small market share there, so I think they're hoping to get a better foothold here, because Sony obviously own Japan, and Nintendo are doing quite well there as well. And it kind of lines up with what we've heard. I think Phil Spencer said they are interested in buying a Japanese studio. I think they've definitely showed signs of that here. Anyway, next one is one that people got very excited over. Actually, this is not the last game, but pretty much the last game independent of the new console talk, called Elden Ring, which is again a CGI trailer, but it looks like it's probably a while away from coming out, so that's fine. It had a nice cinematic trailer to it. George R. R. Martin is involved. Again, how heavily he's going to be involved, I don't know, but his name is on it certainly. They got From Software as well to make this, and that's good, because I haven't checked if this is an exclusive to Xbox. Check that there. But they presumably, or it always seemed at least, like they had a better relationship with Sony. Of course, was it Bloodborne? Okay, yeah, Elden Ring is on all consoles, so. But I suppose that the problem with Sony not being there is that there can be more studios looking to show off their game that are going to go to Microsoft. So that might be a I never thought of that idea. That might be a misplay by Sony, because if there was a studio that said, like, hey, we have to show off our game, it's on all platforms, Sony aren't there, well, we'll go to Xbox, even though we normally get on better with Sony. But a very good trailer, but it was very simple, more or less just an announcement trailer, but it was pretty cool. Then we got on to xCloud. This is their version of cloud streaming, the same way Google are doing it. Play your game anywhere, that kind of thing. Looked fine. I think there's more of a tease for the future, but no more teases for the future. What am I saying? The biggest tease for the future, is what I'm trying to say, was the new console. They really pushed the idea like, oh, it's for gaming. It's for gaming. Oh, it's not about home entertainment. Because if anyone remembers the launch of the Xbox One, that was disastrous, where it was like, you can do this. You can talk to your television. Hey, why play games? It's like, talk about misunderstanding your market. That was actually one of the funniest E3s I remember. I think it was like 2013. Or like Microsoft are always taking up the morning shift. And then Sony, I think, are generally that same day later. And Microsoft were like, oh, here's what we're doing. You can't, you can't share your games. It's this expensive. And it's not about home entertainment. Like, they basically made like every disastrous move. And then Sony just basically came out and said, we're not doing any of that. And everyone was like, yay! Basically, they were just like, what are Xbox doing? Nope, not that. Anyway, they've announced Project Scarlet with 2 T's at the end for some reason. They had some talking heads and developers. Again, it's kind of pointless, like this is amazing, and of course you want to say that. They emphasize that there would be less loading times and it would be more powerful. They have the SSD, which is the solid state drive, which is a big deal. Apparently, again, I'm not the most technical person. This is me kind of taking third-hand information here. That's all I understood basically. But it's powerful. Loading times are going to be better. Graphics are going to be better. It's coming out in the holiday 2020. They said something that was very true, and I'm glad they said this. I've said it before. With regards to graphics, we're at the point where graphics are going to be photorealistic very soon. And with that, that's not like that was the pushing that was how you sold a console before. It was very easy to when if you had a PS1 and they brought it to PS2 and they're like, hey, look at this. It's like, what? Oh my god. Solid Snake has a nose. I never knew that. And then they come to PS3 and it's like, what? Look at the shadow of Solid Snake. I don't know why I'm referencing Snake so much. I've never played the Metal Gear Solid games really. And then PS4 it was like, oh, fuck you, Konami. No, you know what I'm saying though, as in with the previous gaps in console generations, it was pretty easy to just say, look how good the graphics are, and that would bring in the sheep, the cattle. Everyone would go, hey, that's amazing, I'll get that. And they said that basically it's not about the graphics anymore. Now it's more about performance. I think with the graphics eventually getting better, it'll be about performance, and it's actually going to be very interesting because at the point where you can get graphics that look like real world, I think you're going to see a re-emergence or a return to more artistic representations of life. You see that in art in general, really. When as soon as people were able to properly take photographs, it was like, oh, let's try weirder stuff. Picasso fucking made his living off it, didn't he? I didn't study art. Can you imagine that? I mean, that could have been my thesis there. Picasso made money off making weird shit. I'm not wrong, let's be honest. The biggest leap in between consoles Microsoft has ever had is up to the Project Scarlet. They said it's going to have 4 times better performance and 4 times more powerful than the current most powerful console. 120 frames per second, 8K, and ray tracing, which again helps with lighting, to my understanding. Now, what we all also need to remember, of course, is that this is all the stuff, these are all the specs. People, mightn't necessarily utilize them all that well. That's one factor. The other point is that whether this will work, in people's homes, whether your TV will be up to showing that off, it is what it is. But that's what they're aiming for. You're going to lose the power of that in a lot of games, so you won't need to hit that target. They didn't confirm backwards compatibility, but they alluded to it. But it seems weird, you wouldn't just straight out confirm it. Maybe they're waiting to see what Sony are going to do, but I think Sony already said they're going to be backwards compatible, or maybe that was just a rumor. I don't know. But that's where they're at. No details on price or design. That would probably be for next E3. Now I haven't heard, but some people have been suggesting that it's going to be pretty expensive based on the SSD. And here's the thing, right? Let's talk a bit about the new generation, and also to a certain degree why this E3 was a bit lackluster, and maybe why Sony were right to sit it out actually. And that is, we're basically at the last year where this generation of consoles is going to be the be all end all. Next E3 it's going to be, here's what we have coming, here's the new consoles, here's what's coming out on those consoles, here's the games, blah, blah, blah. You could, there's not much you can say about your new console this far out because it's still early on. This isn't launching until another 15, 16 months. If they come out and say the price, people will just backlash all over. They need to give it do it close to the time when they can iron out all the kinks. For example, what if all of a sudden they're like, right, this doesn't work with this, and they need to put a new component in, and that new component is very expensive. Because of that, there's not necessarily going to be big announcements because there's no point announcing hey, this game is coming for this generation, and then oh crap, by the time this comes out, the next generation will be out because that'll murder your title. So they're kind of holding off, I think, on announcing some titles In fact, I think a lot of the titles that got announced are probably going to be next gen as well. That's my theory. And the problem with that, of course, is that your conference is going to be a little bit lesser. You're not going to be able to talk about just this generation because people are starting to know this generation is going to an end. And the problem is as well, like that last generation doesn't really feel outdated yet, like at all. To me, at least, it feels like it never really got going. Like there's a lot of games on the Xbox One and the PS4 that were just sort of remasters and remakes, and it feels like overall it didn't reach its full potential. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Maybe it's only right to do it because I think they feel like, because if there was a rumor about some of the games that Sony were going to be putting on their PS5, and most of them are games that are going to be coming out for the PS4 as well, maybe they just figured it'll be kind of a backlash if we're like, hey, this game is coming out, oh, but wait wait until the next console comes out. The next console turns out to be 500, 600 or whatever. Yeah, we're coming up to the next generation consoles, and it's still a little bit early on. This is basically just, hey, next summer, next Christmas. That's all we need to know. We probably will get like little leaks and pieces here and there, but next E3 is where we're going to learn all the major details, the ones that actually matter, the price, what we're going to be able to play on it. The only title I think actually that's been confirmed was what they showed off next, which was Halo Infinite. It's going to be a launch title. Now, my problem with this, it was another CG trailer. I think they showed off a little bit of gameplay, but it wasn't anything impressive. It was like, those, like, I think it's definitely in that first Halo game. It might be in the other ones where it's like, oh, are you all right? You better look left to make sure you're able to look left. And the most basic tutorial, like someone who's never played a game before. It tried to show off the capabilities of the console. I feel like they should have done a better job with that, because it was basically just Master Chief like in space and then Master Chief standing in a ship. The ending a little bit got some of those visual capabilities there. It didn't even look like a Halo game for most of the trailer. I actually kind of thought it was an Alien game at the start. It had that kind of horror and aesthetic to it. I don't know. I feel like Halo's lost a bit of its luster, but it was a pretty intriguing trailer. The graphics, textures, and lighting look very good. Lighting, I think, is a big deal with this new console. But it was a very bare bones trailer. Whether or not it will look good in practice is also unlikely. I think that's that's what I'm talking about. Like, you can show off your games here about E3, about your next generation games or whatever, but they're probably still very early on. You don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. Maybe they would have been better off showing some of that stuff next year when they're closer to launch. I don't know. All right, that was the end anyway of the Microsoft panel. My closing thoughts on it. It was a pretty decent showing. Focused on the games a lot, which was a far cry from a lot of Microsoft conferences for a couple of years ago. Problem was there was not any real surprises. That's kind of what I said before. And it's what you expect coming to the end of a console generation when the next generation hasn't properly begun yet. Because there's probably a few surprising things in develop for next gen, and you don't want to just, say, hey, here it is, because people will be like, oh, great. Oh, I can't even play because it's on next gen. And next gen is like ages away. Thanks, Microsoft. Other issues, recurring theme, the lack of gameplay and abundance of CG trailers. I felt it really dragged as a result because there was a few games that just weren't that interesting. A lot of their older franchise underdelivered. Halo and Gears of War, for example, I didn't think were that great. Some of the highlights actually came from the smaller games and the smaller studios. So Microsoft is definitely doubled down on embracing smaller studios. And they look like they're going to start pushing towards Japan. And yeah, like the new console wasn't exactly mind-blowing. But then again, it's so very early that's fine. They have plenty of time to get it right. And again, Sony haven't really unveiled their console. The Wii U what is it called? Yeah, the Switch, just came out not that long ago. So they're still, this is them getting a sort of a head start. But whether or not it will deliver, or even if it was that impressive, is still up for debate. We followed that up. The next conference was Bethesda. All right. I don't know about this conference at all. Bethesda started their opening. It was like damage control. Bethesda have had a strange year with Fallout 76 and kind of customer support and losing the fans. And it had the most cringy opening as a result, where it was like, you guys, the fans, we love the fans. You make us. We're nothing without you. Yeah, we get it. You're only saying that because you want their money. Like, Todd Howard briefly alluded to controversy. Fallout 76 probably being the biggest controversy they've had lately. He said, we deserve criticism, and now it's amazing. Is it, though? Is it? He hopes the success of Elder Scrolls Blades, which was a mobile game. And that's how they started their conference. Really? Like, do you really want to start your conference off with a mobile game? I don't know. Like, it's coming to Switch, I guess, for free. So maybe that's why they showed it off. I don't know what it says about Switch as well that gets a lot of mobile games, because that's what, more than a couple of times during this conference, we're getting mobile games put on Switch. I don't know why you would start your conference this way. But they did, and, again, Bethesda fans are probably cringier than most of them. Everything is amazing, everything gets whooped. Fallout 76 was next. The Wastelanders expansion is going to have human, non-playable characters, a new main quest, choices and consequences, and new gears and weapons. It's free, it's coming in fall. This sort of feels like stuff that should have been in the game to begin with, no? I don't know. I never played Fallout 76, not a massive Fallout fan, casual one, I would say. I think they fucked it up so much that I think they just have to try to get people back on board. This might do it. The Battle Royale mode, I should say. That's original, isn't it? It was pretty obvious what this was going to be. It's a 52-player Battle Royale called Nuclear Winter. Everyone clapped like idiots. Everything they did, any word that was said, just ridiculous. Like, settle down. They're basically saying, we screwed up, we're trying to fix it, and you're like, yay! They're doing their job, dude. The World of Fallout, though, I will say, it feels pretty suited to that. Having kind of Battle Royale modes and weaponry and traps and that kind of thing. I don't know about the gameplay so much. There's a beta that's now over that I've heard is pretty good, actually. If you're a Fallout fan, it's pretty good anyway, but... the gameplay is pretty meh, which is about what you expect, I guess, judging off Fallout 76. Some people like it. Maybe, check it out if you're a Fallout fan. Tango Gameworks announced Ghostwire Tokyo, which is an action-adventure game. This was another CG trailer. It involves spirits sort of on the loose. Horror action game. Looked very cool. People sort of vanishing. Looks creepy as hell. You're sort of like a ninja fighting off spirits. The presenter for this was like the cutest person ever. Her English wasn't great. She was just kind of like, very creepy. Yep, summed it up well. Yeah, that was intriguing. I want to see what more of that and where it goes to. And, with all these CG trailers, this one at least looked different enough to grab my attention. Then we had the Elder Scrolls Online. I didn't take much of what was said here on board because I barely understood it. I didn't understand what it was advertising most of it. It didn't sound like they unveiled anything of consequence anyway. It was like they just mentioned dragons a lot. And there was a trailer, again, a CG trailer, but it was like... I'm hitting the wall talking about this game. Talking about Bethesda stuff. Elder Scrolls Elsewhere, which is, I guess, an expansion DLC. Something. There's a narrative to these trailers that I'm obviously missing here. People get whooped when they saw someone. They said, I think it ended with to be continued. I don't know. And they announced Dragonhold and Scalebreaker as future expansions of DLC. So, Jesus Christ. Elder Scrolls Online, I guess. Some people like it. I clearly don't. Means nothing to me. Hey, people love Elder Scrolls. I don't know if they love Elder Scrolls Online as much, but there was a lot of whooping, which they did for everything. Then we had a game that immediately got my interest and quickly lost me, which was a new online free-to-play game, and it was Commander Keen, and I was like, yeah, that's awesome. And then they did it in the form of like a Saturday morning cartoon, and I was like, that's so cool. This could be a really cool way to bring that game back, because one of the first games I ever had on a computer was Commander Keen. And it's a mobile game. And the lead characters are twins, Billy and Billy, so boy or girl. And it's an RTS, a point and click game. No, it's a bit slow. And that's where it lost me. It's coming out in summer. They went on about how successful Fallout Shelter was. We all love mobile games, right? Why wouldn't you say that? All these mobile games, woo! Elder Scrolls Legends, a card game, is coming to mobile. Fascinating stuff. And there's more to come. And people cheered for that as well. Bethesda sucked the life out of me. Rage 2. They said we wanted to do more than release a critically acclaimed game, which, like, was it? Did you even do that? I don't know if people loved that game. I thought it was okay. They said a lot of community stuff is coming. There's new vehicles, cheat codes, new modes, new weapons, and an expansion called Rise of the Ghosts. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Again, it's one of those other games that's like wacky Technicolor future. But it was a pretty fun trailer, I thought, at least. It got me somewhat interested in the game. It's a game that's already out, but I didn't play the first one. I guess that doesn't matter because it's like a totally different thing, seemingly. But it looked fine. If you love that game, there's a lot of good stuff coming, seemingly. Okay, I'll save my last yawn for Rage 2. Wolfenstein. They talked about Wolfenstein. They actually announced 2 Wolfenstein games, or they showed off 2 Wolfenstein games, actually. First one is a VR game. Bethesda seem to do very good in VR. They have Skyrim VR, Doom VR is apparently amazing. They have Wolfenstein Cyber Pilot, which is going to be available from July. And they didn't show much of that off, but it looked pretty cool. Wolfenstein Youngblood is, of course, the next big Wolfenstein game. They said it's bigger than any Wolfenstein game yet. More weapons, and it is bigger. Set in the 80s, 2 decades after the New Colossus. The 2 daughters must find BJ Blazkowicz. Optional co-op multiplayer. You can still play in single mode. It looks a lot more sci-fi than the last Wolfenstein games. I played one of them. I have a lot of them that I have to catch up on, but I really enjoyed them. It kind of feels like, say Wolfenstein was Far Cry 3. Wolfenstein Youngblood will be like Blood Dragon. That kind of way. But it looks different enough from other shooters to be fun. It's very over-the-top arcade kind of look about it. I actually thought it was quite interesting looking. A lot of fun. It's out on July 26th, which is pretty soon. Then we got another trailer and I guess a game announcement. Arcane Leon Studios brought out a game with a CG trailer, and it showed a kind of a world in madness. There was rioting in the streets, vast open landscapes. Then there was guns, swords, and what seemingly looked like superpowers. This trailer was a bit vague. I guess it was mysterious more than vague. So it's 2 rivals that are trying to kill each other. And it was sort of a looping gameplay kind of thing. With some time, I don't know if it was time control elements. It seemed like that was going on, and it was like over and over again 2 assassins constantly trying to kill each other off, and naturally it was titled Deathloop. This is one where I'm like, that looks really cool. I'm really interested to see what gameplay looks like, but we of course didn't get any, which is a bit of a shame. But it's a cool looking game. I think it could deliver very interesting results. I'm picturing kind of online and that kind of thing, team of assassins versus team of assassins with those sort of elements to it. I don't know though. We will see. It has my interest. We will see. From gameplay, I think is the only way you're going to be told that this really has promise. Then Bethesda talked about future and innovation. Their new technology, Orion, which is meant to optimize game engines, especially for game streaming services like Stadia and xCloud. It can stream games faster with less latency, and will make it cheaper and won't compromise settings due to bandwidth or distance from data center. This was something that was pretty cool. Someone came out streaming Doom to a mobile device, and it was apparently 60 frames per second, which was pretty cool. They just kind of came out, didn't say anything. They were playing it with their phone attached to a controller. And it looked pretty good from what we could see. But again, remember, these might be ideal settings. Who knows? But it was pretty impressive. One of the more impressive displays I've seen of cloud gaming yet. And our last game at Bethesda was Doom Eternal. This looks a lot more fantastical than the last one. The last one obviously had that kind of hell levels and that kind of thing. This one looks a bit more over the top than even those ones. In a good way, though, I will say that. It looked fantastic. Some really cool new elements and insane weapons and craziness. We got a little bit of gameplay, cool, which is nice. It was a lot more sci-fi heavy than the last one. The last one obviously had that element, as I said. There was more emphasis on motion mechanics as well, like there was wall climbing and swinging, that kind of thing. It looks awesome. I don't know what else to say. It's very colourful. Lots of interesting mechanics at work. Plenty of ways to kill people. They have the BFG, the end of the trailer. It's coming out November 22nd. They had a collector's edition with a helmet. Let's watch Bethesda fuck that up. They did not learn from the collector's edition last time. I can't wait for people to get like they showed off a guy wearing the helmet to just be like, okay, we'll give it to you. I can't wait for people to get like a cheap Halloween mask of a helmet or something. Oh, by the way, those people that were trying to get canvas bags apparently got the canvas bags from Bethesda. Finally. There's going to be a multiplayer battle mode too. 2-player control demons versus 1 Slayer, who's fully powered up. More details are coming at QuakeCon. I think QuakeCon is also going to be kind of geared towards promoting Doom and celebrating Doom more than Quake this year. It's a fun mode, I think. I hope there's more to the multiplayer, which I'm sure there will because it'll get stale. The multiplayer in the last game was pretty good, if I remember correctly. And then we had one last video telling gamers how great they are and how much they love them. Oh, thanks, Bethesda. Right, overall impressions of the Bethesda conference. Way too much backslapping for one, and ass kissing to the fans. I think they must really know they screwed up. They had not a good lineup. There was some really questionable stuff to include there. Pointless stuff. Like, I don't know how you promote a mobile game on the same stage as you're like, hey, or here's Doom Eternal. It's like, it's I don't know. It's odd. A few saving graces. Doom Eternal and Wolfenstein were probably the big ones. And what else was there? Rage 2 was okay, not too bad. But yeah, overall, I think I don't know. It felt very spread thin as well. Deathloop was an interesting one as well, but it felt stretched out, and there was some stuff that didn't really feel like it needed to be there. They could have shortened this panel a lot. I think it was tough to get through, to be honest. Then we had Devolver Digital. So if you don't know Devolver Digital, they kind of do mostly kind of 2D, arcadey sort of fun kind of side scrollers. Not all by side scrollers. Like they did Hotline Miami. It's probably their best known game. They're strange, and their E3 conferences, I think this is their third year doing one now. They do these weird meta parodies of E3 conferences. Like, I don't even know if I should recap this. It was more like a 20-minute Adult Swim show. Like, yeah, I guess I'll go through because there was a few games in there, but it was odd. So some of this has nothing to do with games, but I'll just go through what happened. So the presenter from last year was violently shot up, so they're trying to revive her as a cyborg. So straight away, if that interests you, go watch these. They can't do a show without her, and they realize they can do a video just like Devolver Direct. Take that, Nintendo. People are skipping them E3 a lot this year anyway, they say. So they're beaming the audience directly into the head of the cyborg host from last year. If you understand what I'm still talking about, good for you. Don't worry, I'll get back to the game in a sec. So the joke here is there's loads of vapid speech, there's plenty of violence, and they do lots of tongue-in-cheek jokes. First game they showed off was a thing called Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout, which looks a bit like Takeshi's Castle, which if you don't know what Takeshi's Castle was, it was like a Japanese game show that was over the top where you have to like run through obstacles and all, a lot of inflatable stuff and that kind of thing. It's got a lot of prominence, in Europe certainly, because they've kind of taken the footage from this old game show. Like, I think it was the 90s maybe, and they've done modern commentary over it, and they show it on like television over here in Ireland and England. Looks like they're going through crazy obstacles. I think you start with 100 people. This looks like a really fun party game, and it's online. It's coming early to 2020 to PS4 and PC. It's like a battle royale game with 100 players on a game show. I looked up the gameplay for this. That's how much I was interested in this, and it looks like a lot of fun. I actually was surprised. Like, again, sometimes the smaller games get you more interested than the big ones. The developer also seems to have a good handle on sort of variables. Like, someone asked him, well, okay, what happens if we lose like 80 guys on the last course, and with 20 people going into the next course, and it's course meant for 50 people. They're like, okay, well, we have variables for gameplays and that kind of thing. So obvious things that they've obviously thought about, Then they had a weird one. They announced Devolver Bootleg. It was I think it was like taking the piss out of the Epic Store. And it was a way to knock off Devolver games. So it's like an 8-in-1 game collection with like minor adjustments so that they're kind of bootlegged. So like the soundtrack might be odd, there might be some weird visual stuff, the names of the games are changed, that kind of thing. They're like slimmed down versions of the game, not necessarily the full game. In fact, I don't think they are. But it's cheap enough. I think a lot of people bought it as like a joke. This is a kind of fun idea. As I said, it's pretty cheap. So if you've ever wondered about some of these games, you can test them out. And if you like them, try the real one. It's kind of, I guess, a little bit like a demo disc almost. It plays more like an ad than a proper game. That's what some people are complaining about, which is probably right, really. But yeah, that's it. We had Carrion, which is a side scroller. This is like a Metroidvania. Oh, I just knocked something over. Carrion is a side-scrolling Metroidvania kind of horror. It looked a bit like The Thing in that kind of way. You play as this monster, not as a person. The graphics look very cool, and the monster moves like in a very spindly kind of spider-like way, which looked very impressive. I don't know how it'll control really, but it could be fun. The best and worst thing about this conference, actually, right, is that I can't tell what's real or not, because it's taking the piss out of everything. They're showing off stuff. Sometimes I think it's a joke. I don't know if it's real. They announced Enter the Gungeon, House of the Gundead. So it's like an arcade spin-off of Enter the Gungeon with light guns coming next year. I don't know if it's real. Yeah, I don't know. The presenter of this conference, by the way, the actress was fantastic. She was like unhinged and funny. Totally over the top. Yeah, The Messenger, Picnic Panic. This is a free expansion to the Messenger game coming July 11th. I haven't heard of this game, but I really like the look of it. The graphics are really cool. It's kind of retro. I might actually check it out. The thing about Devolver Digital is like they put out a lot of games. They put out so many games that it's easy for them to slip by you. But they put out some really good ones. What was another one? No More Hero as well was another really fun one that I enjoyed. The conference started glitching at that point because they announced too many things. And we got a semi 3D side-scrolling shooter which had a kind of a Matrix vibe to it. And it was actually a game I'd heard of. I didn't realize it from looking at it, which is My Friend Pedro, which just came out. I think it's only available on Switch or something. I don't know. There's some weird. I'm sure I might be wrong about that, but it's on. I'm sure it got released in a weird way. I could be wrong there. The reviews for it are very good. It's a bit crazy. It's a perfect Devolver Digital game, really. Yeah, that's one to check out. It's out already, I suppose. So the conference ended in a really weird way because it took a shot at conferences and it took a shot at conferences and now they can push all the DLC whenever they want with this direct conference model and delay games constantly. So they were like, with this direct model, we can just put out DLC rather than announcing anything good, and we can keep delaying games, which I guess is a shot at Nintendo. You know, we'll get to the Nintendo Direct at the end, I suppose, and you can judge for yourself. And it ended on like a Terminator joke, where like the presenter, I guess, came back to life and someone was like, "Come with me if you want to live." So there it is. How do you grade this conference? I'll talk about it. Devolver Digital, it was a really weird conference. It made for a very entertaining one because it was short and weird. It fits the company's brand. It's effective because I actually probably looked up more games in this conference than either of the last two. Because it was kind of to the point with some of the games. But yeah, I don't know what to say about it. It was entertaining. It was weird. It was different. It got me invested. And there was a lot of cool looking games there, even though they were a bit smaller. Okay. On that somewhat happy note, that weird, demented note that was the Devolver Digital Conference, I'm going to stop there. I've recorded the whole episode, and it was 2 hours, 40 minutes. So I will give your ears a rest and end it on a high for now. That means part 2 is going to be out next week. I'd say Tuesday? I said with a question mark. I am in Germany on Tuesday. If it's not Tuesday, it'll be Wednesday, but I'm going to, as much as possible, try have it out Tuesday. Okay? What do we have coming up? Well, that was the start of E3. That was only, 3 of the conferences. Coming up after that, and it's about the same length, we have Ubisoft, for example. Did they fare well? Who knows? I do, but I can't tell you because then you won't listen to next week's episode. Square Enix. Then we, of course, have Nintendo Direct. Would E3 be worth it? That was a question in my mind. I mean, I had the answer to that question already. But you didn't know what my mind was thinking because you can't read my mind. Or at least you can't do so over a podcast. I'll say over the radio. And that would make me sound incredibly old. But also make me sound like I'm on higher stature than I am. In that being on the radio would actually mean something. Aside from that, then I'm going to, mention a few honorable mention games. Top 10 games from E3. The best conference, the worst conference. The damn squibs, the ones that were just a bit of a letdown. And the ones that are missing in action. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you come back for part 2. If not, if you want to skip out in the rest of E3, that's cool, but come back the following week where I will break down all the news that I might have missed during E3. And the week after that, we're going to go straight into Comic-Con. All right. I hope you come back because I cannot spell cult without you.
You never see it all, pal.